Global Warming 50 Years Hence, a tribute to Wally Broecker. Imagine it was 50 years ago, 1974. Most of us weren't thinking about changes in global temperatures. I suspect Wally Broecker, a geochemistry professor at Lamont Doherty, was. In fact, he was probably finishing up what would be one of the most famous scientific papers in the world. A year later, in 1975, Wally Broecker published a paper in the STEAM journal Science entitled Climate Change, Are We on the Brink of a Pronounced Global Warming? That paper was the first to use the term global warming. In that paper, he states the exponential rise in atmospheric carbon dioxide content will have driven the mean planetary temperature beyond the limits experienced during the past 1,000 years. In writing this paper and his subsequent work, Wally Broecker became known as the father of global warming or global climate change. It is useful to look back on this work and on the predictions he made regarding global warming 50 years ago. Broecker specifically predicted the rise in atmospheric CO2 from the burning of fossil fuels would cause global temperatures to rise. He asserted, as others had before him, that global temperatures are linked to changes in atmospheric CO2 levels through the greenhouse effect. The data on this graph show the rise in atmospheric CO2 levels up until the year 1975 that Wally had for his study. This is what he used. And this was measured by Dave Keeling, pictured below. In his first step, Broecker, in his 1975 paper, predicted the rise in future atmospheric CO2 levels to the year 2010 based on predicted future burning of fossil fuels. That would include coal, oil, and gas. The orange points and line show Broecker's prediction of future atmospheric CO2 levels. The gray points show the actual measured atmospheric CO2 data. Broecker's prediction was pretty accurate for the atmospheric CO2 levels until about the year 2000, and then his prediction was too high. So here's the data he had for his study. This is his prediction, shown in orange, and now we can do a look back and say, well, this is the actual measured CO2 to the year 2023. With a prediction of future levels of atmospheric CO2 levels, Broecker then could predict future average global surface temperatures. This is the smoothed average global surface temperature from NASA for the 50 years prior to 1975. Broecker wondered how would global warming resulting from increased CO2 levels in the atmosphere impact future surface temperatures. He could use his prediction of future CO2 levels to make this calculation. Based on available geophysical studies, Broecker proposed that global temperatures should rise 0.32 degrees centigrade for every 10% rise in atmospheric CO2, and using this relationship predicted the rise in global temperature out to the year 2010. I've extended this to the year 2025 to recognize the 50th anniversary of his study. So that's shown in orange. Summarizing, in 1975, Broecker predicted the increase in global temperature as shown based on extrapolating the Keeling CO2 curve. And by the way, doesn't this prediction look totally nuts? Here's the previous 50 years, and he says temperature is going to rise that much in the next 50 years. Because nearly 50 years have elapsed, we can analyze whether Broecker's prediction was accurate or valid. How well did he do? Did he correctly predict global warming? Here we make a comparison of Broecker's prediction of global warming, shown in orange, with measured global surface temperatures from NASA. The two curves look amazingly similar. So in the red dots are the measured data from NASA, and in orange that shows Wally's prediction, and they are amazingly similar curves, especially regarding what happened in the previous 50 years to 1975. But wait a sec, remember Broecker's CO2 prediction was not very good after the year 2000. What would happen if his prediction of future CO2 levels had been perfect? That's what I've shown in this graph where I've recalculated his prediction using perfect data. Using the corrected CO2 data from the measured data, Broecker's prediction of the warming of the Earth's surface was extremely accurate, even a bit low. So his blue points, which are the corrected data, lie underneath the red points, which are the actual measured data, so his prediction was a little bit low if you used the corrected data. Given a half-century of time has now elapsed since the publication of his original work, we must consider the theory of global warming to be proven and to be relatively well understood, given the accuracy of his prediction, with the recognition of the insights and work of Wally Broecker. Here he is receiving the National Medal of Science from President Bill Clinton in 1996. Implications of global warming. Yes, it is likely that the glaciers will melt more rapidly, that the poles will lose their sea ice, and that sea levels will rise, but at rates that are much more difficult to accurately quantify. There are many additional uncertainties, especially concerning changes in weather patterns, intensity of storms, and occurrence of droughts, many of which are currently being experienced today. To put it simply, we really don't know what the future holds, and that's a concern. The Earth has not seen CO2 values like these for at least 800,000 years, and the best comparisons are of an Earth 55 million years ago. So simply, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and global uncertainty is frightening. It's time to fix the problem and stop our reliance on coal, oil, and gas. That means that we have to stop all burning of coal, oil, and gas as soon as possible, replacing it with wind, solar, and nuclear energy.